help desk software, payment software, email marketing tools, CMS and blogging tools, SEO tools, deal management tracking, pipeline tracking. You don't need more tools to get more out of your business. You just need HubSpot. Their all-on-one customer platform is a dream come true for every member of your team, with best-in-class campaigns and workflows to generate more leads for marketing, category-leading pipeline management to help sales close more deals, powerful AI chatbots, and a knowledge base to help service teams scale, and it's built to deliver results and revenue faster to help your business grow. So dump the disconnected tools and the chaos that comes with them. Discover what HubSpot's all-on-one platform can do to streamline your business. Visit HubSpot.com to grow better today. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Monday, June 17th. I'm John Weigel here with Cyan Zhang, and this is the Hustle Daily Show. The global seaweed market totals a very unexpected $18.4 billion nowadays. The underwater green stuff that, gets all over your legs in the ocean seems to be an incredibly diverse tool for industries across businesses. But how are these businesses and startups making millions off of seaweed? And more importantly, how can you cash in on it? I'm hoping to answer those questions today with the help of Cyan Zhang, managing editor of the Weekly Trends newsletter here at HubSpot, who wrote up the story on the interesting world of the seaweed market. But before that, let's give you the hits and headlines today in business and tech. All right, starting us off today, only 11% of employees in North America said their employer offered summer Fridays in 2023, and that's down from 55% in 2019. Seems like some offices might have confused work from home with out of office. Very easy mistake. Next, WhatsApp users will start seeing better video calling features like improved screen sharing and up to 32 people in one call. In other words, Meta will offer them Zoom, just with a WhatsApp logo in the corner instead of a big blue Z. Next, a UK man is suing Apple for $6.3 million, which is the cost of his divorce. Very expensive divorce. He blames Apple for his deleted texts syncing to the couple's iMac, which is how his wife actually learned he was cheating in the first place. Good luck with that one, sir. In more Apple news, Apple's upcoming Sequoia operating system will update Chess for iMac for the first time in 12 years. Beta testers who found the improved game say it has shinier pieces. How lovely. And finally, in box office news, Inside Out 2 earned an estimated $155 million at the domestic box office on its opening weekend, making it the second highest opening for an animated film ever. Okay, so as mentioned before, we're joined again by the managing editor of the Weekly Trends newsletter here at HubSpot, Cyan Zhang, who just wrote a story all about the surprisingly profitable seaweed and algae market. So first off, welcome, Cyan. Great to have you back.
Yeah, great to be back, John, and, nice to chat about seaweed, which I'm just obsessed about.
Yeah, we're back and we're talking about the green stuff in multiple ways. So first, let's talk about the seaweed. How did you find yourself thrust into this world of seaweed?
Yeah, how did I end up in that rabbit hole? So I started looking at some trends research back in 2021, and apparently Irish moss or sea moss, which is a kind of seaweed, was kind of the superfood. A lot of people are, going for those supplements, gummies, and it's still growing like crazy right now.
Oh.
So that got me thinking about seaweed, the different ways it's been used. And then I remember that I've definitely seen multiple different startups and companies in wildly different industries using seaweed as part of their solution. So that kind of just got me thinking, should I look into it? That's kind of kicked off the whole thing.
Wow. And I'm glad you really fell down that rabbit hole, because it seems like you've kind of stumbled upon this market that is consistently growing, as you mentioned, and managed to generate billions of dollars. But what's the big deal to you about the seaweed market? I know I mentioned up top a little bit, but how much money does it generate and how does it do across the board?
Yeah. So like you mentioned, the global commercial seaweed market is $18.4 billion, which is nothing to scoff at. And like I said, it's so versatile. There are so many different industries using it for different things. It's just really impressive and quite a moneymaker. The startups are raising multi-millions of dollars by turning seaweed into different things. So yeah, it's definitely a huge market to look into. There are a vast ocean of opportunities there.
An ocean of opportunities. That's really good.
Thanks.
So you mentioned Irish moss up top. So when you do say seaweed, What are we including? I'm no scientist, but I know there's quite a diversity of seaweed and seaweed adjacent greenery to talk about.
So I did not ace my high school biology. So I had to do a little bit extra research before writing this piece, and I'm going to try my best to simplify it. So basically, algae is the broad term for thousands of different species and organisms that are mostly photosynthetic. And then under algae, there's seaweed. And seaweed is a microscopic kind of algae, which means you can see them with the naked eye. We can all see seaweed. And then under seaweed, there are three main kinds. There are green seaweed, brown seaweed, and red seaweed. The one we're talking about, Irish moss, is a kind of red seaweed. And kelp, which is more commonly known, is a kind of brown seaweed. And nori, which is a popular seaweed snack, is also red seaweed. So it's funny how you were talking about the underwater green stuff, because a lot of them are not even green seaweed.
Wow. Okay.
So yeah, that's the spiel.
Okay. Thank you for breaking it down so eloquently, because I, up until now, thought the seaweed snacks that I were eating were the same seaweed that was in the ocean, which is the same seaweed that people call kelp. So that's really helpful to know that delineation of them. And I'm sure you can use them all in various different ways. So how are people using these variations of seaweed? What are they doing with them, and how is it a resource to companies?
Yeah, I looked into over 10 companies that are using seaweed, and they're primarily in 4 different groups. So the first group is turning seaweed into food. Whether it's just harmless regular seaweed or some invasive species, people are processing them and turning them into like imitation bacon or some other kind of food, which is really cool. And the other category is packaging. So seaweed can actually be turned into really biodegradable, sustainable materials, which will help us go towards a cleaner, less plastics future. So that's really awesome. Another way they're using is kind of carbon sink, because it photosynthesizes, right? So it stores a lot of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and the ocean water. And then if we sink seaweed to the bottom of the ocean, then it sequesters the carbon. So that's pretty cool. And finally, another one is similar to food, but it's more like a supplement adding to biofeed for livestock like cows. Cows, apparently their burps have a lot of methane, which is bad for the environment.
Oh, yeah.
But if you add more seaweed to their feed, they burp less. So that's obviously helpful. So yeah, those are the 2 main categories seaweeds are being used that I notice are really cool.
Wow, really crazy. So a lot of diverse uses for seaweed as a substance. And if you wanted to, or anybody wanted to look up a specific kind of case study of this, maybe with a specific company, could you direct me anywhere to check out maybe one that's doing something pretty fantastical?
Yeah. So there is one called Carbon Wave, which is basically turning harmful sargassum into like fertilizers, emulsifiers, just making something really kind of harmful into something really useful. So I think that's really cool. Another one is called Seaweed Generation. Basically, they use 2 different kinds of robots to also turn seaweed into a carbon sink. So yeah, there are so many different companies doing cool stuff with seaweed.
Yeah, so it seems like there's a lot of ways that companies have kind of gotten involved in the market, whether it's creating food for people or livestock, whether it's making packaging or environmental purposes. Now, if somebody out there wanted to get into the seaweed market, because as we noted up top, it is like over $18 billion in value, and that's pretty attractive, I feel like, to a lot of people. So what are some ways that you could see somebody getting into that market to start to generate business in the seaweed market?
Yeah, even though there are so many players already, there's still definitely white space you can get into. Like, for example, if seaweed can be turned into food for humans or biofeed for cows, then they can be turned into some kind of food for pets like dogs, cats, what have you. So I think seaweed in the kind of pet food market will be very good in the coming years. They also have health benefits for animals, digestive or nutrient rich. So that's one area you could tackle. Another one is fashion, which is kind of niche, but apparently you can extract some color pigments from seaweed and turn them into a natural dye. And with the, fashion being more sustainable these days, you can definitely partner with brands to launch, seaweed dyed clothing.
Wow. Yeah.
I know a company that's already doing that. So it's really cool.
Expect me to be wrapped in nori walking Paris Fashion Week next year, I guess.
Oh my God, I would love to see that, actually.
I'm sure it's going to happen if it hasn't already somewhere.
Yeah. One last one. This is kind of an interesting piece of data. So disproportionately, there are a lot of female founders in the seaweed sector compared to like other startups where it's more male-dominated leadership. So you could literally start a community for female founders in the seaweed sector or even the ocean economy in general, offer resources, networking events, and all that, and just to get that community going. I think is a very unique opportunity.
Yeah, that's really an exciting metric. You mentioned in your article about how it was about 40% of startup founders in this space are women, which is very, very interesting. And like, I wonder why it's such a high amount, but that's really great as a statistic. And also kind of on top of that, are there any ways to get into this market that are a bit less tech influenced, maybe a little easier, that maybe somebody like me could do?
Yeah. I mean, you personally, if you do the Nori seaweed fashion thing, you could definitely become a content creator, and
Right,
I
okay.
would subscribe.
Okay, great. Okay, that'll pop off. No problem. Right.
But yeah, I think one thing people can do that's a little more low tech, because Irish moss and stuff like that are still trending. So you could white label some supplements, or you could even curate like snack kits, ingredients kits for that. Why that would be an opportunity? Because seaweed is a very common ingredient or snack in Asian cultures. I kind of grew up with that stuff, but I realized that in the West, especially in the US, it's still not that commonly known. Like most people think of it as the stuff that wash up in the ocean, right? So I feel like there's definitely a space for people to kind of bring seaweed more into the mainstream snacking or food culture in the US.
Yeah, really cool.
There's another opportunity that I just thought of. So I did a lot of research for this piece, and there wasn't like a central like seaweed database or anything like that. So I think that would be a really cool thing to build. You could also build a platform. It's not low tech, but the tech is more understandable. It's more like a SaaS. You could build a platform to connect academic research on seaweed with commercial applications or companies looking to use seaweed for something. Wow. Those are some different ways to use your business savvy and tap into the seaweed craze.
That's awesome. I mean, this is something at least that I had no idea about. So it's really cool to hear how the space is going forward in many different directions and how people can also get into it. And thank you so much for bringing this information up. And, I'm excited to see you in Paris Fashion Week next year.
Yeah, I'll see you there.
All right, everybody, that's going to do it for us today. Thanks for tuning into the Hustle Daily Show. We're a proud part of the HubSpot Podcast Network. Our editor today is Robert Hartwig, and our executive producer is Darren Clark. We've got a lot more tech and business coverage in our newsletter. If not subscribed, go get yourself signed up at thehustle.co/email, and we'll see you tomorrow.